of Finance, Trade and the Economy, Dr. Robert, will lay the first installation of Tobago's official medium-term policy framework blueprint, Pathway to Prosperity 2026 to 2030. Monday, 22nd of June, from 10 a.m., the People's House is the nexus. All doors are open. All channels are clear. You can tune in or come in. Either way, don't miss it as we take another step towards becoming the greatest little island on the planet.
Let us now pray. O Almighty God, as we have come together to begin our meeting of the Assembly, we humbly beseech you to grant to all our members the light and guidance of your Holy Spirit, that we may wisely take counsel together and come to such decisions as shall promote your glory and the well-being of all our citizens of this land, so that peace and happiness, truth and justice may be enjoyed by all people. Grant this for the sake of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Oath of Allegiance of a new member. Announcements by the presiding officer.
Honorable members, I have received leave of absence from today's sittings from Assembly Member Nigel Tate, Assembly Member Natisha Charles Pantin, and Assembly Member Ian Pollard. The leaves are granted. Honorable members, given the medical situation of Assembly Member Pollard, I would like the House to stand and take a moment of silent prayer for his full and speedy recovery. Thank you. Clerk.
Assembly bills sent back from Cabinet. Assembly laws brought back from Parliament. Petitions, papers.
Secretary of Finance, Trade and the Economy.
And good morning to all members and our visiting friends in the public gallery. So this morning I'm pleased to lay 8 papers, and they are as follows. 1, the Tobago House of Assembly Budget Report as at March 2026. Tobago House of Assembly Monthly Report as at April 2026. Tobago House of Assembly Financial Statement for the financial year ended September 2024, 30th September 2024. Tobago House of Assembly Financial Statement for the financial year ended 30th September 2025. The Budget Statement for Fiscal 2027. The Tobago House of Assembly Draft Estimates, details of the recurrent expenditure for the year 2027. Tobago House of Assembly Draft Estimates, the details of Development Program expenditure and the Unemployment Relief Program for the year 2027. And Tobago House of Assembly Draft Estimates of Revenue for the year 2027. Mr. Presiding Officer, I just want to make a correction to the Tobago 7 Tobago House of Assembly Draft Estimates for Development Program. And the Unemployment Relief Program will now be the Program for Infrastructure, Works for Urban and Rural Projects. So that is now the name, and you will see it in the budget statement. Thank you very much.
Presentation of reports from Dispute Resolution Commission, Select Committees. Chief Secretary's question. Question to Secretaries. Questions for oral answer. Request for leave to move the adjournment of the Assembly on definite matters of urgent public importance. Statement by Secretaries or Assistant Secretaries. Personal explanations. Introduction of bills. Motions relating to the business or sittings of the Assembly and moved by a Secretary or Assistant Secretary. Public business, motion.
Secretary of Finance, Trade and the Economy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Presiding Officer. Allow me to please set myself in place to lay the plans of this administration for Tobago for the next fiscal year 2027. Again, I will acknowledge you, Mr. Presiding Officer, Chief Secretary, Deputy Chief Secretary, Secretaries, and as I acknowledge Secretaries, I would like to also send personally my best wishes and speedy recovery to my colleague, Ian Pollard, whom I miss very, very dearly, who I know, this morning would give me the overwhelming support. And I want to take this opportunity to state that I do give him the support as well during this time of illness. And I hope that God will give him the required healing and full recovery so that he can be back to join us in our thrust for governance of this island. Assistant Secretaries, Chief Administrator and other administrators, senior staff of the Tobago House of Assembly, distinguished ladies and gentlemen in the public gallery, local and international audiences following this presentation on the radio, television, and other live streams. Members of the media, a pleasant good morning. Mr. Presiding Officer, it is a tremendous honor for me to stand before this honorable House to present the Tobago House of Assembly Budget Statement for Fiscal 2027. I always look forward with eager anticipation to present the THA's fiscal package because it gives me a unique opportunity to outline the Assembly's plans, programs, and initiatives for the ensuing 12 months on behalf of the island government. And this responsibility entrusted to me pursuant to Section 41 of the Act Number 40 of 1996 is one that I take with utmost seriousness and humility. And I'm indeed supremely honored for the opportunity to share the vision of this administration with the people of Tobago. Today, I present this budget, my first in the second term of this administration, and my third as Secretary of Finance during the economy. And it is a tremendous sense of optimism. And I say optimism because nested in this budget are a number of proposals and initiatives that, once implemented, can catalyze the socio-economic transformation of the Tobago economy and our society and place us on a trajectory to fulfill the vision of the Honorable Chief Secretary of making Tobago the greatest little island on the planet. And we believe that the people of Tobago deserve nothing less. Mr. Presiding Officer, today's budget presentation takes place against the backdrop of an intricate tapestry of global affairs in which the threads of peace and economic development are tightly interwoven, each influencing the other to shape the world in which we live. Geopolitical risk relating to the US-Iran war and disruption caused by the previous closure of the Strait of Hormuz is the world's top challenge. In fact, the geopolitical risk is no longer a peripheral concern for businesses and policymakers. It is central to economic strategy and forecasting. Mr. Presiding Officer, you will recall that in the lead-up to the Tobago House of Assembly elections earlier this year, this administration campaigned extensively on our blueprint. Led ably and competently by the Honorable Chief Secretary Farley Chavez-Augustine, we kept our discussions at a high level and campaigned based on our record of achievements and our vision to transform Tobago, unlike some of our then opponents. Mr. Presiding Officer, this professional and dignified approach to campaign did not go unnoticed by the electorate in Tobago. In fact, the electorate delivered a decisive 50-0 victory to this Tobago People's Party administration, while quietly sending some of our political opponents into premature political retirement. This overwhelming victory notwithstanding, and at the insistence of our Honorable Chief Secretary, we commit to governing with a high standard of accountability, fairness, professionalism, and transparency. And we take our mandate seriously. We see it as a real opportunity for us to improve delivery to the people of Tobago. And this is particularly true considering our more harmonious and productive relationship we now share with the central government. The budgetary proposals accompanying this statement were significantly shaped by and anchored in the Strategic Development Planning Pathway for Tobago 2025 to 2045. And this development planning framework, Mr. Presiding Officer, maps out Tobago's development trajectory over the next 20 years. The proposals are nestled in the TPP blueprint, which sets out our programs for the next 4 years. And this is our official medium-term planning framework, which sets out our plans for the period 2026 to 2030. Our fundamental objectives are to develop a resilient, sustainable economy that develops opportunities and prosperity for all Tobagonians, and I will repeat, to all Tobagonians. The budgetary proposals were also influenced by extensive consultations with a wide range of civil society organizations, stakeholders, and interest groups in Tobago. as well as submissions on our online digital consultation platform. In fact, in total, we consulted with 8 civil society organizations and interest groups and received approximately 110 submissions on our digital platform. I really wish to thank all individuals and organizations who contributed to the budgetary process. Your input was very invaluable in charting the policy direction for fiscal 2027. I also want to thank our secretaries and assistant secretaries for their insightful contributions. I also want to thank our administrators and senior public officers.
I would like everyone on silent or leave the chamber, please. Thank you. Continue.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, I also would like to thank senior public officers, particularly those who work tirelessly in the Division of Finance, Trade and the Economy, my personal staff, the budget staff. I have 2 very close advisors who worked very, very intimately with me to input all the contributions on the preparation of this budget statement here today. And today I want to say a heartfelt thank you for all persons who have contributed to this budgetary statement. And as I bring these introductory remarks to a close, I extend sincere gratitude to my immediate family, especially to my husband, Karen Roberts, and my children for their overwhelming support, patience, understanding, and encouragement throughout my journey as Secretary of Finance. I also wish to thank the extended family, which are my in-laws, who, when I can't see about my children, they take that responsibility on my behalf. Their sacrifices often go unseen, yet their encouragement has been invaluable in helping me to carry out the responsibilities here entrusted to me. And above all else, I offer profound thanks and praise to Almighty God. His grace has guided me, and His love has strengthened me throughout the demanding process of preparing this budget statement and managing the affairs of Tobago's economy. To Him all glory for the progress that we have achieved, the challenges that we have overcome, and the promise for a brighter future that lies ahead for the people of Tobago. Mr. Presiding Officer, in a similar vein to last year, this budget is far less a budget of promises and more a budget of priorities. And our aim is to ensure that every dollar we allocate is geared towards building resilience, creating jobs, and enhancing the standard of living and quality of life of Tobagonians. It focuses on enhanced delivery and the attainment of measurable outcomes for Tobagonians. Tobago can no longer afford the luxury of spending without measuring impact. Every program in the 2026-2027 budget is tied to a result. Safer communities built on more resilient infrastructure, a stronger economy measured by jobs created in the blue and green sectors, and a brighter future measured by youth employment and youth empowerment. We will publish our targets, track our progress, and report to the people of Tobago, because prosperity is not promised by expenditure, it is delivered by results. And it is against that backdrop that this budget statement for fiscal 2027 is aptly titled Results-Based Governance, a Pathway to Prosperity. And I'll repeat again. The title and theme for this budget, fiscal 2027, is Results-Based Governance, a Pathway to Prosperity. Mr. Presiding Officer, it is important that I mention here that together with this budget statement, I have tabled in the House financial statements for fiscal 2024 and 2025, and I feel so proud about that. But it gets better. Cumulatively, I have laid 8 financial statements in this House in just 2 short years. The The result is that the Assembly is now fully up to date and legislatively compliant with its financial reporting to Tobagonians. And in addition to the foregoing, we have recently completed the long-standing modification of our THA financial rules of 1990, and they will be tabled by a motion in this Honourable House sometime next month. What the now politically defunct PNM administration could not do in 21 years, this Farley Chavez Augustine-led administration did in just 2 years. And this is the embodiment of what results-based governance really looks like. Mr. Presiding Officer, I will now examine the outlook for the global and regional economies, and then the outlook for the national and Tobago economies. Mr. Presiding Officer, the international macroeconomic backdrop for the 2027 fiscal year is highly complex, leaving small island developing states particularly exposed to external shocks. According to the IMF April 2026 World Economic Outlook, global economic growth is projected to slow to 3.1% in 2026 and 3.2% in 2027, tracking well below the pre-pandemic historical averages. This deceleration is compounded by severe geopolitical instabilities, notably ongoing conflicts in the Middle East, the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, and expanding geoeconomic fragmentation occasioned by open attacks on global rules-based institutions and trading systems. These developments have triggered risk-off sentiment in international capital markets, moderately tightening global financing conditions and sustaining elevated public debt risks across emerging and developing economies. Furthermore, the IMF's Global Prospects Report notes that global headline inflation is experiencing a modest uptick in 2026, driven by volatile energy prices and trade policy disruptions before expected stabilization in 2027. As of the middle of May 2026, the U.S. Energy Information Administration recorded that the estimated Texas Intermediate oil price is at $109 per barrel, and the Henry Hub natural gas price is around $3.10 US per MMBTU. And it is worth noting here, Mr. Presiding Officer, that on the international stage, there are a few isolated public health concerns, such as the Ebola virus in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda, and the scare created by the Hanta virus outbreak on the cruise ship NV Hondios. The entire world prays that these are quickly contained and controlled and not escalated into global emergencies, mindful of the socio-economic disruptions usually associated with these matters. Mr. Presiding Officer, for an island economy like Tobago, these global dynamics are likely to impact the domestic economy in the following ways. 1, we will experience import inflation and supply chain friction, tight capital markets, volatile tourism demand. Mr. Presiding Officer, allow me now to turn our attention to the regional outlook. The broad regional outlook underscores the urgency of structural reform. The World Bank's April 2026 Latin America and the Caribbean Economic Update reveals that the region is caught in a long-standing structural low-growth trap. Regional GDP growth is projected to reach just 2.1% in 2026, falling below the 2.4% recorded in 2025, making the Latin America and Caribbean regions one of the slowest growing regions in the developing world. Relatedly, the World Bank Open Knowledge Repository Framework identifies several binding constraints stifling regional performance, and these are subdued private investment, eroded fiscal space, persistent structural informality, And Mr. Presiding Officer, the analytical guidance from the World Bank Group's Latin America and Caribbean strategy portal highlights that long-term regional stability and growth require investing heavily in fundamental structural pillars, specifically advanced institutional capabilities, digital infrastructure, targeted workforce skills, and climate-resilient economic diversification. I will end this section and now turn to the national economic outlook. Mr. Presiding Officer, following the IMF 2026 Article 4 consultation report and the World Bank Trinidad and Tobago macro poverty outlook, Trinidad and Tobago's economic growth remains positive but structurally constrained in the near term. The near-term growth is projected to slow down to 0.7%, to 0.7% in 2025 to 0.8% in 2026. And this is primarily caused by anticipated declines in natural gas and oil production stemming from mature fields and maintenance disruptions. Mr. Presiding Officer, stronger performance in the non-energy sector is actively working to offset this energy deficit. Over the medium term, the national growth trajectory is poised for a significant upgrade as major new upstream extraction initiatives officially come on stream. Despite these positive medium-term horizons, structural vulnerabilities persist. Domestic risks to growth and the external sector stem from low oil and gas production. Policy slippages and persistent foreign exchange shortages may weaken market confidence, and externally elevated global uncertainty and tighter financial conditions pose additional risks for national economic growth. Mr. Presiding Officer, to counter these structural risks, this Assembly recognizes that the mandate for Trinidad and Tobago is to rapidly mobilize private investment across agriculture, agro-processing, digital infrastructure and innovation, tourism, and the small and medium-sized sectors for growth. Therefore, at the national level, the macroeconomic landscape demands a highly strategic, calibrated fiscal response from the central government and the THA. Mr. Presiding Officer, it is worth mentioning here that oil prices moved from approximately $62.09 per barrel in Q1 to $77.64 per barrel in Q2, while gas prices averaged at $4.20 US per MMBTU, broadly in line with the national budgeted assumption of $73.25 US per barrel and $4.25 US per MMBTU. Relatedly, on June 12, 2026, Moody's, the international rating agency, elevated Trinidad and Tobago's outlook from negative to stable and affirmed the country's Ba2 rating. This decision follows closely on the IMF's own 2026 Article 4 assessment mentioned earlier. Moody's explicitly attributed this improvement to the deliberate choices made by the central government, namely proactive debt management and strengthening the country's financial buffers. And these developments have led the central government to increase the national budgeted expenditure for the current year, fiscal 2026, by a further $2.9 billion, and to increase the allocation to the THA by $94 million, taking it to a total of $3.06 billion. Mr. Presiding Officer, I now turn to Tobago's economic outlook. Tobago recorded a constant price gross domestic product of $1.65 billion, in an increase of 1.7% over the revised estimate for 2024 of $1.62 billion. The key sectors driving this increase were manufacturing of 23.4%, financial services of 2.9%, and the government of 2.6%. Notably, there were no significant changes in the sectoral composition of the island's GDP, with the government sector accounting to 46%, financial services 27%, tourism 14%, and agriculture and manufacturing, which together contributed 2%. The labor market data for Tobago from the Central Statistical Office shows that Tobago had a labor force of 33,300, with a total of 32,300 persons employed at the end of the fourth quarter of 2025. The unemployment rate was 3%, with a labor force participation rate of 68.4%. The data also indicated that approximately 60% of the labor force in Tobago was employed in the state sector, with the private sector employing about 40%. Comparatively, nationally, 25% of the labor force was employed in the state sector, with the private sector employing about 75%. Moreover, Mr. Presiding Officer, the share of the labor force in Tobago with tertiary level education at the highest level of attainment was 18%, with secondary education as the highest level of attainment was 66%, and with primary education as the highest level was about 16%. Mr. Presiding Officer, inflation in Tobago remains at moderate levels. Data from the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago indicate that Tobago recorded headline and food price inflation of 2.1% and 2.8%, respectively, in April 2026. Core inflation, which excludes food and energy, was recorded at 1.9%. And interestingly, for the 12-month ending April 2026, headline and food inflation averaged 2.7% and 2.8%, respectively, while core inflation averaged 2.6%. I now present an essentialized summary of this administration's first term in office, 2021 to 2025. Mr. Presiding Officer, the Farley-Chavez-Augustine-led administration took office in December 2021. And among its main objectives were to effect significant socio-economic transformation in Tobago, meaningful improvement in the quality of life and standard of living of Tobagonians, and to ensure greater value for money and accountability in public financial management. And I can state without any fear of contradiction that the performance of this administration over the first term in office has been nothing short of stellar. Yes, Mr. Presiding Officer, stellar performance. There were substantial upgrades to the physical, social, and recreational infrastructure, expanded infrastructural and employment opportunities, and notable improvements in the standard of living and quality of life for Tobagonians. All of this was achieved notwithstanding a huge inherited debt overhang of approximately $1 billion, which significantly restricted and continues to impede our fiscal space, insufficient budgetary allocations, and the most disruptive and less than supportive P&M central government. Mr. Presiding Officer, this administration campaigned extensively on our record of achievements and our vision for the further development of Tobago as clearly articulated in our blueprint titled Pathways to Prosperity 2026 to 2030. With Tobagonians being the intelligently discerning people that we are, the stellar performance of this administration did not go unnoticed. They saw and tasted the harsh political victimization, fiscal wickedness, and character assassination with which this administration, some members of this administration, had to contend with in their first term. Mr. Presiding Officer, the Tobago People's Party was returned to office with a historic 15-0 victory. Our political opponents were annihilated, thereby ending the political careers of most of them, simultaneously giving birth to the political careers of the new Assembly members in this Honorable House. The people of Tobago took note of the obstructionist behavior of the then opposition and decided to remove them completely from this Assembly legislature. decisive victory represents a victory for progress and performance over bacchanalia and recycled ideas. It represents a victory for progressive politics over regressive obstructionist politics. It represents a victory of hope for Tobagonians and vision over hopelessness and short-sightedness. And most importantly, Mr. Presiding Officer, it represents the collective investment of Tobagonians in the shared vision of this administration, making Tobago the greatest little island on the planet. Mr. Presiding Officer, as we reflect on our stellar performance and looking into the future, we are reminded of two important phrases. First, that the reward for great work is more work. And the second is, to whom much is given, much is expected. And we continue to serve the people of Tobago with integrity, dignity, humility, and grace. Over the next 4 years, our expectations are for enhanced management performance and delivery to the people of Tobago. This is now possible with a more harmonious relationship with the central government and elevated budgetary allocations. Our new budgetary framework, which has results-based governance as its core, its center, allows for much more accountability, greater efficiency, and greater effectiveness. Mr. Presiding Officer, this administration wants to expressly say thanks to Tobagonians for the confidence, the trust, the faith that they have invested in its governance. It must be stated here that we will continue to work deliberately and assiduously to ensure that Tobago gets optimal return on investment they have made. Thank you, Tobagonians everywhere. Mr. Presiding Officer, I will now set out the detail of this administration's results-based governance strategy for fiscal 2027. Mr. Presiding Officer, during its first term, this administration did what it had to do to arrive at the place where it can now do what it really wants, which is intentionally govern for impactful results that will move Tobagonians along the pathways to prosperity. And it is for this defining reason that this year's budget statement is again titled Results-Based Governance, a Pathway to Prosperity. Mr. Presiding Officer, the results-based governance is a leadership and management strategy that focuses on achieving specific outcomes and impacts through the effective use of resources. It emphasizes the importance of results in planning, implementing, monitoring, and evaluating programs and projects. It is widely used in public sector management, international development, and organizational performance improvement. During the last 4 years, this administration prepared its planning pathway called the Strategic Development Planning Pathway towards the greatest little island on the planet 2025 to 2045. And it presents our 21 agenda priorities, which clearly sets targets and timelines for achievements. And we have broken up our 20-year strategic development planning pathway into 5 4-year medium-term policy frameworks. And this is the first, and it's called Tobago Blueprint Pathway to Prosperity 2026 to 2030. This blueprint sets out our priorities, targets, indicators of progress, and success to be achieved over the next 4 years. Mr. Presiding Officer, for effective, efficient, and real-time monitoring and evaluation of our implementation and operationalization of the Strategic Development Planning Pathway, and more particularly the blueprint, we have designed, engineered, and built a comprehensive AI-assisted portal. The portal is the new digital workspace that will be used by staff across the entire THA's institutional ecosystem to execute and perform all tasks associated with the programs and projects in our fiscal 2027 work plan. Additionally, Mr. Presiding Officer, you will recall that in fiscal 2024, we deployed the strategic selectivity as our institutionalized strategy for the selection and prioritization of programs and projects. Relatedly, following the 15-0 results of the recently held THA elections, the THA did two things. He expanded the governance structure of the THA, and it realigned its divisions and special purpose companies and agencies. Mr. Presiding Officer, it is worth noting here that 3 new divisions and 2 new departments were created for improved governance and impactful delivery. 1, the Division of Legal Affairs. And this division's mandate encompasses a comprehensive range of responsibilities, chief among them constitutional autonomy, designed to support the creation of a more just society for all Tobagonians, Tobago residents, and visitors. Its role is to advise the Executive Council and to establish the legislative agenda of the Tobago House of Assembly, focusing on developing and promoting laws that reflect the wishes and aspirations of the people of Tobago. Consequently, legislative drafting ensures that proposed laws or amendments to existing laws are clear, effective, and aligned with the broader legal framework of a just Trinidad and Tobago. And Mr. Presiding Officer, the Councillor Adana Joseph Wallace will present more on the Division of Legal Affairs at the budget debate on Thursday. Secondly, we have the Division of Strategic Planning and Development, headed by Assembly Member Trevor James. And the mandate of the Division of Strategic Planning and Development is to guide Tobago's long-term growth and transformation through evidence-based policy, coordinated planning and control, and ensuring that Tobago's strategic development agenda leads to the realization of sustainable, livable urban, suburban, and village communities. To this end, the division will lead the formulation, and implementation of the island-wide development, spatial, and land use plans, which provide the basis for other divisions of the THA to develop policies, sector plans and strategies, programs and projects related to their core responsibilities. The Division of Strategic Planning and Development, through the re-establishment of the Policy Research and Development Institute, will also strengthen data systems and research capacities to support results-based public investment in infrastructure projects that are aligned with the THA's Build Tobago strategy for sustainable, inclusive, and resilient development. And again, Mr. Presiding Officer, we will hear more about this division from the member on my right on Thursday's budget debate. Thirdly, the Division of Environment, Climate Resilience, and Energy, headed by Assembly Member Darren Henry. This division has a mandate of protecting Tobago's natural heritage and strengthening the island's capacity to adapt to climate change and transition to sustainable energy systems. The division leads environmental conservation and regulation, coastal and marine management, and climate mitigation and adaptation planning. It is also charged with responsibility of promoting renewable energy, energy efficiency, and green technologies, integrating resilience and sustainability into public policy and development projects to safeguard livelihoods, ecosystems, and future generations. Again, I would say that you will hear more of the work and plans for fiscal 2027 from the member who has been charged with responsibility for this division. Thank you. Mr. Presiding Officer, I now will present to you 2 new departments that were created in this administration after the elections in January 2026. The Department of Public Sector Modernization and Transformation and the Department of Public Policy. The Department of Public Sector Modernization and Transformation has a critical mandate to lead the development of a dynamic and efficient public service that adapts to the changing needs of Tobago's society and economy. And we also have the Department of Public Safety, and this department has a mandate to promote and support the protection, safety, and security of the island and its residents. It is also charged with establishing the THA Security Service styled Assembly Police. And these 2 new departments are housed and aligned under the Office of the Chief Secretary. Mr. Presiding Officer, all of the foregoing was strategically established by this administration in preparation for a move towards full results-based governance in fiscal 2027 and beyond. Our deployment of results-based governance means that the entire THA will be working intentionally to achieve specific policy outcomes and results based on the targets and indicators of progress and success, rather than merely following the processes and completing tasks. This will be achieved, Mr. Presiding Officer, by the activation of the following prescribed guiding principles of results-based governance. Targeted measurable outcomes. As part of our blueprint, Pathway to Prosperity 2026, the Assembly and its special purpose companies will now focus on achieving specific measurable outcomes that benefit Tobagonians and Tobago. Secondly, measuring progress and success. Progress and success are measured against targets and indicators that track achievements related to our programs and projects. The Office of the Chief Secretary created a portal linking the THA's 21 development agenda priorities to all divisions' workflows, enabling seamless digital integration of planning and administrative processes throughout the entire THA. Thirdly, monitoring and evaluation. The AI portal enables administrators to oversee THA divisions and companies, monitoring in real time whether targets are met. Real-time tracking of programs and projects help administrators, managers, directors, and supervisors to manage the work in their divisions and the division's workflows effectively. Number 4, clear divisional mandate. Mr. Presiding Officer, the responsibilities of each division and special purpose companies were clearly defined in the expansion and the realignment documents approved by the Executive Council. 5, participatory governance. Mr. Presiding Officer, implementing Tobago's grand vision requires collaboration among sectors, THA divisions, government, private sector, and communities to leverage resources and improve results to Tobagonians. Consequently, the fiscal 2027 budget is heavily shaped by consultations with Tobago stakeholders. Number 6, openness and transparency. Openness and transparency in governance, including performance management and reporting, are vital components of Tobago's development. Open governance builds trust and enables Tobagonians to hold their leaders accountable. Mr. Presiding Officer, this is why we published Tobago's development framework, the Strategic Development Pathway, online to facilitate real-time global monitoring of our programs and projects. And number 8, output-based budgeting. Mr. Presiding Officer, as part of the Strategic Development Planning Pathway framework, the THA is committed to output-based budgeting where resources, financial, human, and material are intentionally aligned towards achieving desired policy outcomes. And this includes prioritizing investments and ensuring efficient and impactful use of public resources. Grounded in these development priorities, targets, and indicators outlined in the blueprint, this output-based budgeting approach is required for all THA divisions and special purpose companies. And Mr. Presiding Officer, we are starting now. This administration has taken the strategic decision in this fiscal to use the last quarter of fiscal 2026 as a practicum, in that each division is required to manage the implementation of at least 3 of its priority projects using the digital portal. Relatedly, divisions were mandated to deploy and apply the core prescribed principle of results-based governance to their operations. With results-based governance, we are not simply implementing and managing programs and projects. Essentially, we are shaping and building new and improved governance systems to guarantee enhanced public service delivery powered by efficiency, effectiveness, sustainability, and accountability. Mr. Presiding Officer, the future of Tobago is not waiting. It is emergent. And however, the face of the island's future is ours to shape. And that is what we are doing. We are shaping it. Permit me now to share the key priority programs and projects for fiscal 2027. From our blueprint, we have strategically selected the following 10 focus areas for targeted capital investment and intentional action in fiscal 2027. 1. Constitutional autonomy. 2. Developing an inclusive society. 3. Sustainable population growth. 4. Sustainable tourism. 5. Creative industries. 6. Food security and food sovereignty. 7. Digital infrastructure and AI adaptation. 8. Developing advanced institutional capabilities. 9. Improvement to our public infrastructure. And 10. Climate resilience, environmental sustainability, and energy transition. I will now present the strategic intent, the programs, projects, and initiatives, together with the proposed capital investment for each of the focus areas I just mentioned. Mr. Presiding Officer, in pursuit of constitutional autonomy, the pursuit of constitutional autonomy is not merely a political aspiration. It is a fundamental cornerstone of Tobago's long-term sustainable development, economic resilience, and self-determination. For too long, our development trajectory has been constrained by a centralized governance model that fails to capture the distinct realities and ambitions of our people. To permanently institutionalize Tobago's self-government, this administration is resolutely committed to continuing the process to amend the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. And this landmark amendment will secure unfettered legislative and executive authority for the Tobago House of Assembly over critical internal sectors, including education, health, environmental management, ensuring that those who live in Tobago decide on Tobago's future. True political autonomy, however, is impossible without ironclad fiscal autonomy. And we are actively working to ensure that the THA has a stable, predictable revenue source from taxes on resource extraction within our proposed exclusive economic zone, along with a transparent mechanism to retain taxes currently levied by the central government and collected in Tobago. Mr. Presiding Officer, we will aggressively negotiate a fair revenue sharing mechanism that allocates national revenues to Tobago based on an agreed-upon fair share model. This financial independence will be supported by strategic political advocacy, formal negotiations, and roundtable dialogues with the central government, while simultaneously building alliances and civil society organizations that champion our right to self-governance. Ultimately, Mr. Presiding Officer, this constitutional evolution must be rooted in the hearts and minds of our citizens. The THA will launch extensive civil education and public awareness campaigns spanning schools, school programs, community workshops, and media tours to ensure that every Tobagonian understands their constitutional rights and the profound benefits of autonomy. By pairing these educational initiatives with a renewed focus on promoting our unique history and traditions, we will foster a powerful sense of Tobagonian identity and pride. As we look outward, we will study international best practices of successful autonomous regions and engage the global organizations for technical assistance, ensuring that Tobago's push towards self-governance is informed by world-class standards and backed by unyielding domestic unity. To manage this historic transition and with the highest level of rigor and inclusivity, we will establish two specialized bodies to guide our path forward. First, we will establish the Independent Tobago Commission on Constitutional Autonomy to review the current governance arrangements and recommend structural enhancements. This commission will bring together THA representatives, constitutional scholars, and vital voices from Tobago's non-governmental and community-based organizations. Second, we will establish the Tobago Self-Government Transition Commission, which will be explicitly tasked with designing a comprehensive, step-by-step blueprint outlining the operational processes, required to transition seamlessly from the current THA framework to a modernized, fully autonomous Tobago government structure. Mr. Presiding Officer, an investment of about $10 million is being proposed for the autonomy program in fiscal 2027, which will be led and managed by the Office of the Chief Secretary and the Division of Legal Affairs. Developing an inclusive society. Mr. Presiding Officer, a progressive society is measured by how it embraces, protects, and empowers its most vulnerable citizens. In direct alignment with the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, this administration will formally establish the Department of Disability Inclusion within the Division of Community Development and Social Protection. The Department of Disability Inclusion will systematically collaborate across divisions to guarantee that persons with disabilities or differently abled are fully integrated into every facet of economic, civic, and social life in Tobago. To drive this transformation, development planning will embed mandatory inclusion benchmarks into the design, implementation, and evaluation of all public policies. Simultaneously, we are tackling physical barriers by mandating universal access criteria across existing and new infrastructure, retrofitting schools, workplaces, transportation, commercial hubs, and recreational facilities. This physical independence will be amplified by targeted subventions for advanced assistive technology to ensure mobility devices and specialized equipment are readily available. True inclusion demands equal entry into the local economy, which we will achieve by eliminating educational marginalization through inclusive education methods and accessible learning materials. This approach will be matched by specialized strategies to expand employment opportunities, leveraging skills training and accommodating corporate cultures. Furthermore, we will close the digital divide by enforcing strict accessibility standards across all public web portals and e-government portals. Mr. Presiding Officer, because physical and digital access must be paired with a shift in our attitudes, the THA will roll out sustained public awareness and sensitization campaigns to root out the stigma. At the local level, community centers, the public parks, recreational facilities, they will be re-engineered to be fully inclusive, backed by a responsive social protection system that provides vital financial and healthcare assistance. This strategy ensures that every differently abled Tobagonian possesses the resources and the dignity to participate fully in our economic future. Mr. Presiding Officer, the following programs, projects, and initiatives are prioritized for implementation under this key focus area in fiscal 2027. 1, the employment initiative of at least 2 differently abled persons by each division and special purpose company as directed by the Honorable Chief Secretary about last month or 2 months ago. The commencement of the construction of the campus, the Tobago campus for special needs students in Signal Hill. Upgrades to the physical infrastructure of all institutions or schools such as the Happy Haven School, the School for the Deaf and Language Impaired, and other vocational centers. The establishment of the Department of Disability Inclusion under the Division of Community Development and Social Protection. Improve social care and financial support for families with differently abled members. Improved vocational training opportunities for the differently abled. And lastly, the construction and delivery of at least 10 social housing units. In fiscal 2027, an investment portfolio of approximately $11.3 million is planned for assembly-wide focus on these areas these projects and plans and projects to be led by the Division of Education, Skills and Innovation and the Division of Community Development and Social Protection. I would now turn your attention to sustainable population growth. Mr. Presiding Officer, population growth is a primary determinant of long-term economic expansion, balancing the growth of our labor force and consumer demand against the carrying capacity of Tobago's resources. Consequently, a stable demographic base is vital for sustaining our development agenda. The wider Caribbean is currently experiencing an unprecedented contraction in its population, driven by a plummeting total fertility rate. The total fertility rate has dropped to approximately 1.6 in Trinidad and Tobago, well below the 2.1 replacement level required for stable demographics, compounded by a regional emigration rate where the loss of tertiary educated citizens exceeds 70%. Our national annual population growth has slowed to a margin of 0.12% to 0.4%. And as a result, our median age has risen sharply to 38.5 years, expanding the old age dependency ratio and placing an unsustainable burden on our healthcare and social support systems. To reverse these contractionary trends, and avoid the demographic trap of a shrinking workforce, the THA will pursue a proactive dual-track population intervention strategy from 2026 to 2030. Accordingly, we will invest in vital social infrastructure, including child care subsidies such as the Baby Box and the Universal Child Care Support Initiatives and other initiatives to encourage family development, to move Tobago towards a stable replacement fertility rate, while utilizing skills matching frameworks to train our youth in high-value sectors. Furthermore, we will introduce targeted graduate settlement incentives, housing subsidies, and specialized funding to retain local professionals while deliberately leveraging the CSME skill certificates and a new diaspora skills registry to recruit skilled regional and returning nationals. Mr. Presiding Officer, these comprehensive population and labor initiatives are critical to stabilizing our vulnerable demographics and securing the expanding workforce required for Tobago's upcoming economic developments. It is worth noting here that while all programs, projects, and initiatives that we have in this blueprint and in the plans for this year, fiscal 2027, will positively influence household formation directly and indirectly, a capital investment of about $21.5 million is budgeted towards funding of specialized programs and projects listed above. I now turn your attention to sustainable tourism. Our sustainable tourism strategy focuses on strengthening local economies in village communities to ensure their long-term prosperity. These economies are structurally defined by their unique geographic scope, services, immersive experiences, natural and built heritage, and deep cultural roots and traditions. Enhancing sustainable tourism will directly help our villages and communities develop robust economies that are perfectly aligned with the specific demographics, culture, and environmental assets. To measure our progress within this framework, this administration has set concrete, non-negotiable targets. We pledge to achieve at least a 25% Green Key certification and designation across all sustainable tourism communities by 2030, with a target of 5% in fiscal 2025. Furthermore, we are committed to increasing the number of short-stay visitors in sustainable village communities tourism by at least 7% in fiscal 2027 and 30% by 2030. Our core strategic intent is to work with other communities to replicate the successes of the Castara model. We anticipate that packaging and highlighting these distinct demographics and environmental assets will help create community-driven tourism that supports both economic growth and environmental sustainability, alongside aggressive cultural preservation, while offering high-quality, unique experiences for our visitors. This sustainable, certified approach will naturally attract eco-conscious and culturally aware travelers, promoting long-term economic stability for our residents. Mr. Presiding Officer, to support this influx of discerning travelers, our strategy will aggressively build out international capacity. We will attract targeted private sector investment to establish approximately 500 hotel rooms in 4- and 5-star classifications by 2030, and to increase international short-stay tourist arrivals at least 40,000 by 2030. In this regard, it is worth mentioning here that the 200 4-star rooms villas from the Marriott Hotel development at Mount Irving, Back Bay has received its approvals, its statutory approvals, and we are on the pathway now for clear construction works to commence before 2026. Let me just repeat that they are clear now for construction works to commence before the end of 2026. Another critical focus of our sustainable tourism build-out is the aggressive diversification of the island's tourism offerings. The aim is to develop a diverse, resilient range of tourism products and visitor experiences that cater to distinct niche interests, such as structured cultural heritage tours, adventure tourism, bird watching, and world-class wellness retreats. It is anticipated that this diversification will attract a broader global audience, mitigate seasonal risks, and significantly enhance Tobago's overall appeal as a first-choice tourism destination. The specific programs and projects prioritized for implementation to realize these results in fiscal 2027 are as follows. 1, the continuation of the Tobago Tourism Branding and Marketing Program. 2, more targeted investment and increase airlift. 3, the restoration of historical sites. 4, targeted training and skills development for sector workers. 5, the commencement of the new Torbay Beach facility. 6, upgrade works to various beach facilities, including Pigeon Point. 7, the development of the tourism and recreational infrastructure of nature and hiking trails in areas such as Highlands, Bell Garden, Bloody Bay, and the main ridge. 8, increasing the number of Green Key and Blue Flag certifications. Mr. Presiding Officer, an estimated capital investment of $105.2 million is budgeted to this focus area in fiscal 2027. The creative industries. Mr. Presiding Officer, the creative industries are deeply intertwined with our tourism sector. Tobago has a deep-rooted and sacred tradition of preserving its heritage for future generations. Much of this invaluable heritage is vibrantly expressed through family celebrations, community events, and our broader national and island festivals. Over the last 4 to 5 decades, efforts have been made to commercialize Tobago's authentic cultural expressions, including our music, literature, poetry, film, fashion, media, our landscapes and green spaces, visual arts and crafts, culinary festivals, and street theater. In fiscal 2027, this administration will pursue more deliberate pathways to monetize our authentic cultural expressions. This sustained cultural preservation has led to the organic development of a natural creative economy that plays a significant role in Tobago's overall economic growth. While much of this local economy is currently incentivized and supported by the THA, future programs related to culture and creativity must boldly underscore the absolute importance of monetizing Tobago's unique cultural assets within the open and competitive international creative market. Consequently, our upcoming institutional programs will focus heavily on optimizing the production of cultural resources through creative productions and performance cycles, while simultaneously ensuring the protection of our artists' intellectual property. To catalyze this economic evolution, this administration is introducing explicit measurable development targets for our creative sector. First, we will formally establish the Artists in Residence program and engage at least 10 Tobagonian artists on a one-year contract to participate in the program in fiscal 2027, thereby providing a structured platform for local talent to refine and scale their craft. Second, we will aggressively leverage on our premier cultural assets to reconnect our global community. By 2027, the THA will promote the Tobago Heritage Festival and the Tobago Carnival as annual homecoming events for Tobagonians in the diaspora, targeting an increased diaspora participation of at least 10% in fiscal 2027. Relatedly, to ensure this cultural repatriation yields tangible economic dividends, we will expand the Tobago Heritage Festival in fiscal 2027 to include a dedicated business and investment forum. And our aim is to target at least 50 businesses owned by Tobagonians in the diaspora, turning cultural pride into direct local investment. Finally, Mr. Presiding Officer, in just 4 years, we have developed the Tobago Carnival as a major festival attracting patrons and persons from across the globe. This event has been generating significant economic value, and the Assembly will continue to invest in it and work closely with our creative stakeholders to effectively scale and further monetize this festival. Mr. Presiding Officer, the programs and projects strategically selected and prioritized for implementation in fiscal 2027 are as follows. 1, the Artists in Residence program. 2, Tobago Heritage Diaspora Cultural and Homecoming Project. 3, scaling of the Tobago Carnival. 4, the Pan in Classroom program. 5, upgrades to several Pan theaters across Tobago. 6, the establishment of a youth music academy and film lab. 7, the establishment of 4 community cultural showcase hubs. And 8, the development of a Tobago fashion and textiles industry. Mr. Presiding Officer, an estimated capital investment of $64.5 million has been budgeted to meet the costs of these programs, projects, and other initiatives. Food security and food sovereignty. Mr. Presiding Officer, our objective is to ensure food security and sovereignty for Tobago by developing resilient food production systems. Achieving food sufficiency entails expanding the island's agricultural sector to meet the nutritional needs of residents and visitors while generating surplus produce for local, regional, and international export markets. Food sovereignty guarantees that Tobago's farmers and fishers can sustain essential food production cycles independently, without dependence on external inputs, emphasizing high-quality diets and food safety rooted in Tobago's indigenous practices. Mr. Presiding Officer, the strategic goal is to increase the agriculture sector's contribution to Tobago's GDP to 2% in fiscal year 2027, up from the current 1%. A key component of our volume expansion strategy is the initiation of a dedicated mega farm program designed to optimize extensive tracts of state land for high-yield commercial scale production, utilizing automated farming systems and technologies and the deployment of our CPEP workers. This mega farm program will serve as a primary driver of production to meet localized demand and secure targeted export quota in areas where Tobago has logistical advantage. The Mega Farm program, Mr. Presiding Officer, will help us achieve long-term food security and economic resilience. We will aggressively increase the production of selected staples such as dasheen, cassava, and yams, and of fruits and vegetables such as tomatoes, sweet peppers, and lettuce, as well as small ruminant livestock and poultry. Our target is to increase the production of these items by 10% in fiscal 2027 and scale to 50% by 2030. Similarly, our aim is to increase the quantity of commercially harvested fish by 10% in fiscal 2027. Mr. Presiding Officer, our agricultural production targets will be supported by a robust, market-driven approach. The Tobago House of Assembly is allocating dedicated grants to fund innovative research in climate-resilient crops and will leverage public-private partnerships to inject vital technology and infrastructure into the sector. And we are implementing stringent regulatory measures, including organic certifications aligned with the hazard analysis and critical control points standards to ensure food safety. To ensure sustainable growth, we will implement comprehensive farmer training programs and demonstration farms to enhance workforce skills, complemented by targeted youth engagement internships to cultivate the next generation of agropreneurs. Economic sustainability will be promoted by expanding direct-to-consumer channels through modern farmers' markets and digital sales platforms, supported by infrastructure for processing high-margin, value-added products. Mr. Presiding Officer, the following are the focal areas for capital investment under food security and food sovereignty in fiscal 2027. 1, the expansion of the Mega Farm program. 2, the acceleration of the Agriculture Access Road Development program. 3, the construction of a modern laboratory for tissue culture and plant pathology. 4, the scaling of the small ruminant genetic improvement and breeding programs. 5, the modernization and expansion of Hope Farm poultry and production systems. 6, the strengthening of the integrated disease surveillance and animal health protection program. 7, the implementation of the CPEP-led vegetables, root crops, and fruits special program. 8, the increase in technical and financial support to farmers and fishers through collaborative efforts from TARI and the Business Development Unit. And 9, the regularization of the Farmland Lease Title Program. Mr. Presiding Officer, a capital investment of $140.7 million has been budgeted to meet the development expenditure associated with Tobago's food security and food sovereignty programs, projects, and initiatives for fiscal 2027. Digital infrastructure and AI adaptation. Mr. Presiding Officer, in line with the global digital transformation and our focus on overcoming connectivity barriers, we propose a comprehensive overhaul of the Assembly's digital infrastructure and architecture. Our core strategy here is to decommission fragmented legacy frameworks and replace them with interoperable, secured, cloud-based government platforms. To protect and promote data sovereignty, all and incoming digital systems, including electronic health records and digital screen registers, will be engineered under a strict security by design protocol to ensure absolute protection of citizen data and maintain public trust. Our digital connectivity strategy aims to enhance spiritual, social, cultural, and economic experiences within Tobago society using digital tools. It also prioritizes strengthening the links among the society, vital resources and services, sourced from the natural and built environments through digitally driven institutional frameworks. And these frameworks will facilitate increased operational efficiency among people, places, services, and things. By improving digital connectivity and operational efficiency, Tobago's society and economy can shift from the margins to the forefront of regional and global innovation and development. Mr. Presiding Officer, the following programs, projects, and initiatives will be implemented in fiscal 2027 towards building the island's digital infrastructure. 1, the implementation of an all-encompassing digital transformation strategy. 2, the development of an integrated e-government platform that enables citizens to access services online, reducing the need for in-person visits to government offices. 3, the implementation of the Integrated Financial Management Information System. 4, the activation of electronic and digital payment platforms. 5, the digitization of Assembly's records and the operations here at the Assembly Legislature. 6, the operationalization of the Strategic Development Planning Pathways digital portal. Mr. Presiding Officer, a capital investment of $46.3 million has been budgeted for in fiscal 2027 to meet expenditures and programs associated with this core focal area. Developing advanced institutional capabilities. Mr. Presiding Officer, an efficient, agile, and effective public service is established upon modern governance frameworks that uphold public trust, safeguard institutional integrity, and demand strict fiscal responsibility. Prudent financial management is inherently enhanced by administrative efficiency, ensuring meticulous, data-driven stewardship of public expenditure across all divisions. By modernizing our administrative engines and dismantling legacy bureaucratic constraints, this administration effectively prioritizes the execution of strategic development planning to deliver high-quality, citizen-centered public goods and services. To institutionalize this standard, we have established the Public Service Strategy and Performance Management Office under the Office of the Chief Secretary, creating an anchor for accountability and strategic alignment across the entire Assembly. To achieve maximum efficiency, we must systematically eliminate perennial delays through re-engineered internal workflows and robust feedback loops that actively drive innovation. Mr. Presiding Officer, the Department of Public Service Modernization and Transformation is spearheading the comprehensive digitization of manuals and other legacy administrative processes. To rigorously measure our progress, we will establish the Public Service Delivery and Service Quality Index in fiscal 2027. Furthermore, building true institutional resilience requires cultivating workforce agility to support our transition towards a fully digital data and digitally intelligent and data-literate public service. In fiscal 2027, the THA will implement targeted upskilling initiatives designed to enhance information technology competencies across its entire workforce, placing a deliberate focus on data literacy and strategic adoption of artificial intelligence. This investment in our human capital guarantees that public servants possess the technical capabilities required to govern a modern and responsive government apparatus. Mr. Presiding Officer, the upskilling aligns with the broader environmental and operational mandate aimed at reducing paper-based transactions and internal workflows across all divisions of the Assembly through the implementation of an interoperable cloud-based digital platform. And for fiscal 2027, these are some of the major programs and projects for implementation. 1, the institutional strengthening program that focuses on clarifying mandates, modernizing governance frameworks, rationalizing institutional and organizational structures, and strengthening the administrative systems across the Tobago House of Assembly. 2, the commitment to outcome, results, and efficiency, which is the core program, which is a cross-cutting performance management initiative led by the Office of the Chief Secretary to institutionalize results-based governance. 3, the full activation of the Assembly's Public Service Academy that will drive upskilling of public officers as well as the modernization of operational processes and procedures. And 4, the expansion of the financial support to vocational and tertiary level students through the Department of Advanced Training and Advisory Services DATAS. Mr. Presiding Officer, in fiscal 2027, a capital expenditure of approximately $22 million has been budgeted to meet the expenditures associated with the programs and projects designed to build advanced institutional capabilities. I move now to improvement in our public infrastructure. Modern, resilient public infrastructure is a fundamental catalyst for long-term economic growth, societal transformation, and enhanced productivity. Strategic investments in roads, ports, utilities, and digital networks lower the cost of doing business, connect isolated communities to urban business centers, and stimulate unsustainable private sector investment. Infrastructure serves as the bedrock for all development, directly driving job creation and expanding our competitiveness. Against this backdrop, the Build Tobago strategy establishes an evidence-based framework for physical and economic transformation by institutionalizing expert oversight. And central to this strategy is the establishment of an Office of Mega Projects, which will utilize integrated land use planning and rigorous metrics, such as cost-benefit analysis and net present value, to prioritize a transparent, merit-based project pipeline while ensuring the agility to adapt through cyclical annual reviews. Moreover, Mr. Presiding Officer, to ensure the longevity of critical assets, this strategy prioritizes sustainable, resilient designs integrated with advanced technology. And we are actively transitioning to a net zero future by embedding green energy technology into public infrastructure. And this strategy preserves ecological integrity by incorporating natural infrastructure, ensuring that new physical developments are climate resilient and structured to protect our local biodiversity. Additionally, the Build Tobago strategy fosters equitable economic growth and fiscal sustainability, through innovative financing frameworks, intentionally leveraging public-private partnerships and build, operate, lease, transfer models. We will bridge funding gaps and recycle assets into new public developments. The rollout will be purposely distributed across development regions or areas in Tobago to connect remote villages to urban hubs, ensuring infrastructure development remains completely inclusive and sustained by modernized procurement frameworks that transcends political cycles. Now, Mr. Presiding Officer, some of the major physical infrastructure projects selected for implementation in fiscal 2027 are as follows. 1, the Accelerated Island-Wide Road Improvement and Infrastructure Upgrade Program. 2, the Friendship Estate Development Project. 3, the Scarborough Redevelopment Project. 4, major improvement works on secondary roads. 5, the Roxborough Bloody Bay Road retaining wall. 6, the program for infrastructural upgrade in urban and rural communities, formerly known as the Unemployment Relief Program. 7, the Southwest Drainage Project. And 8, we will focus on community-based projects. Mr. Presiding Officer, an estimated capital investment of $431.5 million is budgeted for this focal area in fiscal 2027. I now move to climate resilience, environmental sustainability, and energy. Mr. Presiding Officer, given the threat posed by climate change, we must ensure that our current development goals do not jeopardize future generations. A primary focus of the new Division of Climate Resilience, Environmental sustainability and energy centers on mitigating greenhouse gas emissions on terrestrial and marine systems, preventing secondary socio-economic impacts on local communities. Consequently, we have set targets to reduce carbon emissions while preventing the loss of biological species. As part of this commitment, the division will initiate phased energy retrofitting at the Shore Park and Hochar Charles administrative complexes in fiscal 2027. And these initiatives are guided by the local climate change policy and an energy transition strategy, effecting significant cost savings for the Assembly. In partnership with EIDCOT, which is the Eco-Industrial Development Company of Tobago, we are rolling out a phased installation of island-wide electric vehicle charging ports, matched by a transition of the THA's vehicle fleet to hybrid and electronic alternatives. Mr. Presiding Officer, to protect the coastal tourism assets, we will begin rolling out the Coastal Adaptation Plan while accelerating the CAF-funded Integrated Coastal Zone Management Program. The immediate approach addresses shoreline instability from Pigeon Point to Crown Point and from Grange to Plymouth. And we will also aim to build approximately 1 kilometer of coastal defense structures to protect critical infrastructure along Milford Road, Roxborough, Kendal, and Goodwood. Mr. Presiding Officer, we are also executing historic environmental governance reforms to monetize and protect our rich biodiversity, transforming Tobago into a global model of sustainability. Supported by the Tobago Marine Parks Bill 2026, the division will launch the first phase of a commercial permit and user fee system for the Buku Reef Marine Park. And this framework formalizes operator participation and creates a self-sustaining financing model for conservation, while preliminary zoning advances a second marine protected area in Speyside. Mr. Presiding Officer, we are actively leveraging international cooperation and strategic partnerships to secure dedicated funding from institutions such as the IDB and the Green Climate Fund to protect our island's future. Mr. Presiding Officer, the following programs, projects, and initiatives are prioritized under this focal area for implementation in fiscal 2027. 1, the Milford Road Pigeon Point Coastal Rehabilitation Project that is supported by the CAF loan of $100 million of off-budget financing. 2, the reforestation program. 3, the construction of a jetty at Little Tobago. 4, the construction of a modern marine resources management complex. 5, the Northeast Coastal Protection Project. 6, the Sargassum Weed Response Project. 7, the installation of at least 7 electric charging ports. And 8, the Energy Audit Project. Mr. Presiding Officer, a capital investment of approximately $54.4 million has been budgeted to meet expenditures related to these programs, projects, and other initiatives. Mr. Presiding Officer, the 10 areas I just discussed represent priority areas identified to accelerate the socio-economic development of Tobago in fiscal 2027. Now, we are cognizant of the fact that for the effective management and good governance of our island, we cannot focus exclusively on the 10 areas I just mentioned. There are other focus areas that will continue to receive our attention as we make calculated capital investment in these key legacy sectors and industries. And I will briefly outline them now. And I will start with education. Mr. Presiding Officer, our target investment in education align with the following areas outlined in our blueprint. 1, we will focus on curriculum modernization and diversification. 2, classroom technology. 3, teacher training and professional development. 4, strengthening our early childhood education. 5, promoting inclusive education. 6, dual track education with a focus on vocational skills. 7, the construction of the new Scarborough Secondary School. We will also focus on the Tobago campus for special needs students in Signal Hill and a new early childhood center in Corland. And 8, general upgrades and maintenance of schools. In this regard, Mr. Presiding Officer, an estimated capital investment of $190.5 million has been budgeted in fiscal 2027 to meet expenditure associated with these programs and projects. Mr. Presiding Officer, I now move to health and wellness. The health and wellness of all Tobagonians remain a critically important focus for this administration. Our long-term target is a modern, efficient healthcare system that ensures that all citizens and residents of Tobago have access to high-quality care delivered with compassion and genuine concern for their well-being. The system will utilize advanced management tools and technology to promote accessible, patient-centered, and efficient care. This efficient healthcare system will improve resource utilization, ensure regulatory compliance, and support data-driven diagnosis-focused decision-making. In fiscal 2027, our focus is on strengthening the island's healthcare network by upgrading hospitals, modernizing hospitals and health centers, modernizing our clinics, improving our diagnostic capacity, and enhancing the overall functionality of our health systems. Together with expanding the training, mentorship, and continuous professional development aimed at ensuring that all healthcare workers operate at the highest standards of safety, compassion, and excellence. These improvements will be supported and expanded by the use of digital healthcare or AI-assisted tools to improve coordination, efficiency, and quality of healthcare. In fiscal 2027, we are working and aiming for the following results. 1, the establishment of the Tobago Public Health Observatory. 2, the continuation of digitizing health records, clinical management systems, and public health systems. 3, the establishment of a new Tobago Oncology Center in a new facility. 4, the acquisition of an MRI machine, the hyperbaric equipment, and other specialized diagnostic tools. And 5, the expansion of public education by the Department of Wellness, Prevention, and Health Promotion. Mr. Presiding Officer, an estimated capital investment portfolio of $846 million has been budgeted for in fiscal 2027 to meet the expenditures associated with programs, projects, and initiatives under health and wellness. Youth and sport. Mr. Presiding Officer, our aim is to develop sports and outdoor recreation as economically viable professional pathways for the island's youth. Parts of the approach address the monetization of sport and the recognition of Tobago's athletes' achievements at both regional and international levels. Monetization will also leverage the potential of current and future talents to build on those successes. It also points to opportunities to upgrade Tobago's sports infrastructure, including both outdoor and indoor recreational, active and passive spaces. Invested in these facilities will create high-quality amenities, vital for establishing centers of excellence for sports and the development of pathways that support the preparation of Tobago's athletes from amateur to professional levels. Relatedly, we will focus on implementing programs that encourage participation from all demographics, even women, youth, and individuals with disabilities. This will all be achieved through community outreach initiatives and partnerships with local organizations. Additionally, we will establish training programs and workshops to nurture local talent across various sporting disciplines. We will collaborate with schools and sport clubs to identify promising athletes from a very young age. We will also foster a culture of sport and recreation by engaging local communities in the planning and decision-making processes. Finally, we will encourage volunteerism and community-led initiatives to enhance the sense of ownership and pride in the soon-to-be re-established Tobago Games. Mr. Presiding Officer, in fiscal 2027, we are governing for the following results under Youth and Sport Development. 1, the reintroduction of the Tobago Games. 2, major upgrades to the Sid Gray Recreational Complex. 3, the completion of the Goodwood Pavilion and Recreational Grounds. 4, the disbursement of at least 25 professional sporting scholarships. 5, the construction of the Culloden Community Sporting Grounds. 6, the launch of the Tobago Semi-Professional Football and Cricket Leagues. 7, the recommencement of construction of the Bacalet Indoor Facility. 8, the completion of the upgrades to the Shore Park hard courts. And 9, the elevated investment in primary and secondary schools sports meets. Mr. Presiding Officer, an estimated capital investment of about $75 million has been budgeted in fiscal 2027 to meet the costs and programs, projects and initiatives associated with this sector. Community development and social protection. Mr. Presiding Officer, the Division of Community Development and Social Protection, in strict collaboration with the Division of Finance, Trade and the Economy, is leading a coordinated effort across the Assembly to fortify Tobago's social safety net. In fiscal 2027, we are focused on strengthening our social protection systems, establishing and expanding programs tailored directly to our most vulnerable groups, including women, children, elders, and persons with disabilities. The THA will systematically deploy nutritional support, financial support, and targeted subsidies to ensure the essential needs of the vulnerable are robustly met. To ensure efficient, transparent delivery, the Assembly will leverage advanced digital public infrastructure to revolutionize how these services are accessed. Our aim is to use secure digital technologies to launch unified, contactless social protection payment systems that will eliminate administrative friction for those who need support most. This digital modernization will be further paired with local community-based resilience initiatives and public advocacy campaigns designed to foster deep social inclusion, protect our citizens from things like labor exploitation and human trafficking, and erase systemic stigma across our island. Finally, Mr. Presiding Officer, true social protection must be sustained by inclusive economic growth and socio-economic independence. The THA is actively fostering upward economic mobility for vulnerable groups by investing heavily in localized vocational training programs, microfinance initiatives, and targeted operational support for the small and medium-sized enterprises. Mr. Presiding Officer, the following programs and projects are prioritized for implementation in fiscal 2027. 1, the digitization of all social support services to 100% in fiscal 2027. 2, the implementation of a unified social support framework. 3, economic inclusion through skills building and employment support. 4, deepening investment in the REACH program and the Emergency Food Card Initiative. And 5, continued investment in the Electoral District Development Fund. Mr. Presiding Officer, an estimated capital investment of $60.2 million has been budgeted in fiscal 2027 to meet the expenditure associated with these programs, projects, and other initiatives. I now turn your attention to housing and settlements. Mr. Presiding Officer, this administration is shifting directly towards innovative construction models that offer economic, efficient living options for low-income families. Traditional single-story family homes are being completely reconfigured into efficient prototypes, while our land affordability scheme will provide subsidized, fully serviced lots to landless citizens with strict requirement to construct housing units within a 2 to 4 years window. Financial accessibility remains central to this mission. Consequently, we are actively considering down payment assistance to empower first-time homeowners. We will also implement a streamlined grant process to deliver short-term housing support to daily rated workers, single mothers, and other vulnerable groups. And this will complement the home improvement subsidies of $25,000 to $50,000 per beneficiary household for critical structural upgrades towards ensuring existing homes remain safe and habitable. To execute these ambitious programs without placing an unsustainable burden on the public purse, the THA will purposefully harness private sector expertise and innovation through public-private partnerships with the design, build, finance modality to implement affordable housing projects. Utilizing a strategic pre-construction model, the assembly or private developers will offer houses or service lots at market rates to generate immediate revenue, which will directly fund design and development costs. Simultaneously, we will collaborate with not-for-profit organizations such as Habitat for Humanity to raise funds for the most vulnerable families, while securing loans and international funding from institutions like the IDB to support low-income housing projects. And this multi-sector approach will allow us to deliver more efficient and cost-effective open market housing solutions backed by public awareness campaigns that educate our communities about these options. Mr. Presiding Officer, this administration will ensure that our housing infrastructure expansions preserve the local environment and are capable of withstanding the escalating threats by climate change-induced events. Our inclusive social housing solutions will explicitly serve all demographic groups, ensuring that specialized social housing is available to individuals with disabilities. Finally, to insulate these investments against natural disasters, the THA will implement disaster-resistant building codes and conduct an island-wide disaster vulnerability housing assessment. The results will embed resilience directly into local infrastructure so that housing remains safe and ready to shelter our citizens for future generations. Mr. Presiding Officer, in fiscal 2027, we are working to deliver the following results. 1, the execution of the island's housing stock assessment project. So we will conduct a housing stock assessment project. 2, the delivery of 130 housing units in Riseland and 120 housing units at Adventure Phase 3. 3, the delivery of 10 social housing units. 4, the delivery of 52 service units at Adelphi, 15 at Blemming, and 19 at Castara. 5, the delivery of 350 grants ranging from $20,000 to $50,000. 6, the installation of 300 streetlights in underserved areas. And 7, the rural electrification projects in 5 areas servicing 150 households. Mr. Presiding Officer, an estimated capital investment of $101.8 million has been budgeted for the expenditure related to these programs, projects, and initiatives. And it is worth noting here that the Adventure Phase 3 and Riseland projects are not included in this figure as they are borne by the contractors under a public-private arrangement. Finance and the economy. In fiscal 2027, this administration will deliberately transition from government-led consumption to private sector-led, value-added, growth-oriented production. Our public investments will be aggregated into clear asset classes, including human, physical, agricultural, and technological capital, to directly align or impact with development agenda priorities. This tier-based valuation system will be used to attract private funding for tourism, housing, and clean energy developments. And this ambitious fiscal roadmap aims to increase the cumulative total annual capital expenditure to at least 2 times Tobago's GDP by 2030, and to raise revenues to at least 20% of total expenditure. To execute this strategy without creating a fiscal deficit, this administration will launch a modernized institutional framework for off-budget financing, and this includes establishing Invest Tobago as a one-stop shop to streamline large-scale tourism, housing, and clean energy opportunities. The Tobago Development Fund will systematically capture international grants and other funding options. Concurrently, we will build a holistic ecosystem to strengthen local commerce through micro, small, and medium-sized development programs. And this will be supported by business incubators, public awareness campaigns, and financial instruments from partners such as the Exim Bank and the IDB. This institutional shift will eliminate operational barriers to access innovative financial options for local businesses, with the targeted results of raising the GDP contribution to the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises sectors to 15% and large businesses to 10%. Our results-based governance strategy here is to drive comprehensive economic expansion to increase our GDP per capita from its current $3,600 US to at least $5,000 US by 2030. Mr. Presiding Officer, the following programs and projects are selected for investment in fiscal 2027. 1, the Tobago Development Fund. 2, the Capital Investment Program. 3, the Loan Guarantee Program. 4, the Tobago Export Enhancement Program. 5, the Enterprise Assistance Loans and Grants Program. 6, strengthening of Financial Literacy Program. And 7, FinTech adaptation and digital payment solutions. In summary, the macro-critical data underscores that the current socio-economic environment is unforgiving of institutional stagnation. Therefore, the THA's budget submission is a calculated and careful response to these existing realities. It treats public spending not as consumption, but as a deliberate investment to insulate Tobago from external volatility, modernize our public service, and build a healthy, highly skilled population. By funding these priorities, the Tobago House of Assembly is choosing to break out of regional low-growth cycles and take direct control of Tobago's socio-economic destiny. I now turn your attention to the 2027 expenditure estimates. Mr. Presiding Officer, the budgetary requests presented here are directly tied to the Strategic Development Planning Pathway for Tobago 2025 to 2045, and more intimately, the Blueprint 2026 to 2030. And they reflect a deliberate pivot away from traditional reactive spending models towards high-impact, evidence-based public investments and results-based governance by anchoring our programmatic requests into empirical realities. Our strategic aim is to decouple Tobago's development from the historical boom and bust cycles of the national commodity paradigm, laying the foundation for true economic self-reliance and shared prosperity as we move along our chosen pathways to becoming the greatest little island on the planet. Mr. Presiding Officer, For fiscal 2027, the total estimates of expenditure amount to $4.12 billion, of which the estimates of recurrent expenditure amount to $3.003 billion, and the development program expenditure total $1.09 billion. CPEP estimates amount to $43.35 billion. Again, I repeat, our total estimates of expenditure amount to $4.12 billion, of which the estimates of recurrent expenditure amount to $3.03 billion, and the development program expenditure estimates total $1.09 billion. CPEP estimates amount to $43.35 million. The total expenditure estimates are based on a projected national budget of $62.16 billion, which is the same as this current fiscal year's national budget projection, and a requested share of 6.6%. In nominal dollars and cents, our request amounts to only $6.60 of every $100 of projected national budgetary expenditures. Recurrent expenditure estimates. Mr. Presiding Officer, the recurrent estimates for fiscal 2026 totaling $3.03 billion are disaggregated as follows. Personnel expenditure, $805.52 million. Goods and services, $935.57 million. Minor equipment purchases, $67.97 million. And current transfers and subsidies, $1.22 billion. Mr. Presiding Officer, the disaggregation of our recurrent estimates by divisions for fiscal 2027 is as follows. The Assembly Legislature, $35.73 million. Division of Community Development and Social Protection, $103.46 million. Division of Education, Skills and Innovation, $519.6 million. Division of Environment, Climate Resilience and Energy, $60.34 million. The Division of Finance, Trade and the Economy, $190.56 million. The Division of Food Security, $167.13 million. The Division of Health and Wellness, $1.03 billion. Division of Housing, Settlements and Public Utilities, $41.75 million. Division of Legal Affairs, $33.18 million. The Office of the Chief Secretary, $181.94 million. The Division of Public Infrastructure and Transportation, $343.99 million. The Division of Strategic Planning and Development, $42.46 million. The Division of Tourism, Antiquities and Creative Industries, $193.28 million. The Division of Youth Empowerment and Sport, $81.11 million, bringing us to a total recurrent expenditure estimate of $3.03 billion. Mr. Presiding Officer, some major expenditure under recurrent expenditure for fiscal 2027 are the Tobago Development Fund, $14 million, the Loan Guarantee Program, $10 million, the Tourism and Hospitality Sector Support, $4 million, Tobago Heritage Festival Commission, Tobago Festival Commission Limited, $40 million, Tobago Tourism Agency Limited, $50 million, Tobago Performing Arts Company, $8 million, the School Feeding Program, $45 million, the Tobago Agribusiness Development Company, or TADCO, $9 million, the Tobago Reforestation and Watershed Rehabilitation Program, $8 million, and the Tobago Regional Health Authority, $750 million. Development program estimates, expenditure estimates. Mr. Presiding Officer, our investment estimates for the development program expenditure for fiscal 2027, as I said, total $1.09 billion. And the estimates are disaggregated across sectors as follows. Pre-investment, $5 million. Productive sectors, $1.5 million. Economic infrastructure, $508 million. Social infrastructure, $430.4 million. Multisectorial and other services, $144.5 million. Mr. Presiding Officer, we have also made provisions for the continuation of the unemployment relief program under a new item under the Division of Public Infrastructure and Transportation called Program for Infrastructure Upgrade in Urban and Rural Communities. We have budgeted a total of $91.9 million for this new program in fiscal 2027. The CPEP program remains with a budget of $43.35 million, and this program has been realigned to the Division of Food Security to provide the labor inputs necessary to transform the sector. Mr. Presiding Officer, I now turn your attention to our financing options. Estimates of tax and non-tax revenues collected in Tobago. The estimates of tax and non-tax revenues are as follows. Taxes on income and profits, we expect to collect $152.5 million. Taxes on property, $0.13 million. Taxes on goods and services, $59.9 million. Taxes on international trade, $2.2 million. Other taxes, $3.5 million. And that would bring a total tax revenue to $218.2 million. We have other tax brackets, such as property income taxes. We expect to collect a total of $0.4 million. Sorry, $0.04 million. Property income and taxes, again, $0.04 million. Other non-tax revenues, $2.2 million. The total non-tax revenues that we expect to collect in fiscal 2027 totals $2.24 million. Our overall total revenue collection is anticipated at a total of $220.5 million. It is important to note, Mr. Presiding Officer, that our current revenue collection infrastructure and tax administration processes and procedures do not accurately reflect the revenues generated here in Tobago. Mr. Presiding Officer, we are still treating with the reality where significant revenue streams generated here in Tobago are collected in Trinidad in violation of Section 49 of the THA Act 40 of 1996. And it is clear that the solution to this long-standing issue is enhanced legislation and enforcement through the completion of the Tobago Self-Government Project. While it is anticipated that more of our development programs will be funded by budgetary requests, there are some off-budget financing options that this administration intends to aggressively pursue. Multilateral engagements. Mr. Presiding Officer, this administration intends to strengthen its relationships with multilateral funding agencies, such as the Inter-American Development Bank, the ADB, the Caribbean Development Bank, the CDB, the United Nations Development Program, the UNDP, and the World Bank to enhance access to loans, grants, and technical assistance. We are working to build a productive collaborative framework with the private sector through the public-private partnership arrangements designed to leverage available financial resources through IDB Invest. Mr. Presiding Officer, IDB Invest finances projects primarily to advance clean energy, modernize agriculture, and strengthen transportation systems. And they are financing a number of private sector projects in the Latin America and Caribbean. IDB Invest's mandate is to maximize development impact while maintaining financial sustainability a two-sided objective shared with many impact investors. Through IDB Invest, we hope to accelerate our housing program, our digital infrastructure development, and institutional transformation and modernization. We have already begun targeted discussions with the IDB and the Minister of Planning in this regard. Relatedly, we know that the World Bank Group has established a permanent physical office in Port of Spain, Trinidad, and this development is expected to unlock up to US $5 billion in financing over the coming years to support private sector investments, economic diversification, and structural resilience. And just like the IDB Invest, the World Bank Group can lend to companies and private sector entities, which can in turn partner with the THA in public-private partner arrangements. Additionally, we will be working with the Development Bank of Latin America, or CAF, for coastal adaptation and climate resilience for works along the southwest coastlines of Tobago. Since coming into office, this administration has worked assiduously to access the $100 million in funding, and I'm pleased to report today that we are now in full position to access funding in this regard. Long-term borrowing. We will continue our financial program, which is geared towards developing sustainable and predictable revenue streams in our special purpose companies aimed at enhancing their ability to engage in long-term borrowing and equity financing. The companies strategically selected to utilize this option are the Tobago Development Fund, the Study Park Enterprises Limited, the Eco-Industrial Development Company of Tobago, and the Pigeon Point Heritage Company Limited. Mr. Presiding Officer, as I close, I wish to reiterate that this administration inherited organizational systems, performance models, and leadership frameworks built for a world in many ways that no longer exists. We are living in an age of polycrisis. Economic, environmental, technological, geopolitical, and social disruptions intersect in unpredictable ways. The socio-economic landscape is no longer just competitive. It is very unstable and uncertain, and we are leading and governing for results in an environment that is continuously shifting beneath our feet, where information is partial, where events unfold rapidly, and outcomes can be deeply uncertain, and if not managed intentionally. As mentioned previously, it is not for this reason that this budget was titled, and it is for this very reason, that this budget statement is titled, Results-Based Governance, a Pathway to Prosperity. Mr. Presiding Officer, in these realities, the most dangerous belief an administration can hold today is that yesterday's success formula can simply be stretched to meet today's complexities. What is needed is a new mental model, one in which instability and uncertainty are accepted as active components of the new world normal, an activation that redefines effectiveness and efficiency around resilience, adaptability, and learning agility. This is the essence of the institutional transformation we have been performing on the Assembly and its agencies during the last 4 years, and we will continue under the astute and visionary leadership of our Honorable Chief Secretary, Farley Chavez Agustin. It is said that everything rises and falls in leadership, and this is why Tobago has been rising over the last 4 years. Mr. Presiding Officer, this administration understands that good governance and impactful people-centered socio-economic development are without doubt the outcomes of strong, resilient, agile learning and data-intelligent public institutions, especially small island developing states like Tobago. This is the engine that will power us to become the greatest little island on the planet. And in a world defined by deep international volatility, regional stagnation, and national energy transition constraints, Tobago's fiscal policy activation can no longer function as a passive mechanism for distributing subventions. Instead, it must serve as an aggressive, counter-cyclical instrument for structural transformation, institutional modernization, good governance, and long-term socio-economic resilience. And Mr. Presiding Officer, this is exactly the built-in intent of our fiscal programming for the results-based governance that will ensure delivery of our blueprint in fiscal 2027, of our blueprint for 2026 to 2030, and this fiscal that I'm presenting here, fiscal 2027. Mr. Presiding Officer, I beg to move. Thank you.
Clerk.
Motion for adjournment.
Leader of Assembly Business.
Mr. Presiding Officer, I move that this House be adjourned to Thursday, 25th of June at 10 a.m.
Honorable members, the question put is that this House stands adjourned until the 25th of June at 10 a.m. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. The ayes have it. This House now stands adjourned until the 25th of June, 10 a.m.